Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. The first trailer for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City has landed online. There's been a lot of discourse about this adaptation of the video games brought to the big screen. You would think now that the studio is willing to adapt the Resident Evil video games with the actual storylines they had in there and put them in a movie unlike they did with the previous Resident Evil series, fans would be very happy. But there has been nothing but complaining and whining that this just does not feel like their Resident Evil. And after this trailer, maybe some people are convinced. Maybe some people hate it even more. Either way, what I'm going to be doing here for you guys is giving you my trailer breakdown for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, pointing out little Easter eggs you might have missed, things that hint to the overall story they're going to tell here, what parts of the video game they're adapting. But I'm going to need you fans to leave me your opinions down below. If you're someone who's not a fan of Resident Evil, does this movie look up your alley? If you are a big fan of Resident Evil, did this trailer win you over, or are you still kind of hesitant on it? So with the opening of the trailer for Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, we see it takes place September 30th, 1998, as we get a voiceover from Claire Redfield, a character from the video games, where it appears that a pandemic is starting up, people are getting sick left and right, as soldiers who work for the Umbrella Company are trying to tame things down, even though we know they're the ones responsible for this. We cut back to Claire, who's speaking to her brother Chris Redfield, another character from the video games, where they're talking about her conspiracies and her believing that the Umbrella Company is the one behind all this and that they need to expose it. Now, it is mentioned in the movie that Claire will be a character that actually ran away from Raccoon City, and then in this movie she's coming back into the town, seeing that a lot of people are getting sick, it's becoming a ghost town, while at the same time this mysterious character not from the video games is feeding her a lot of conspiracy information that might become useful to take down the Umbrella Company. Now, it is said from the director of this movie that this movie will be combining the stories of Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2 into one film. And as we'll see throughout this trailer, we get a lot of references to those moments in the video games, as right away the trailer shows us one of the main villains of the franchise, William Birkin. This is a doctor who worked under the Umbrella Company and is the main guy responsible for this virus that turns people into zombies. And it looks like they'll really be telling his side of the story and what he was trying to accomplish with the Umbrella Company in this movie. We also get our first look at character Joe Valentine, followed by a look at another popular character in the Resident Evil franchise, Albert Wesker. Now, I'm not too sure how much to reveal about certain characters, as I feel like it'll be big spoilers for the movie, but I think fans of Resident Evil are going to be very curious to see how they handle the character of Albert Wesker, because let's just say he's a guy you don't want to be turning your back to. And probably the most controversial casting that's been going on right now is the character of Leon right here. For obvious reasons, you can see why some group of people might not be loving this choice, because it seems like they race swapped him, where I can understand more of the people who feel like this is more fan film casting as opposed to it actually fulfilling the character of Leon. Now, as long as they stay true to what he is in the video games, I won't really care. I think there's still a really good chance they could pull off this character. The film is already doing so much other stuff to try and please fans that a change like this shouldn't hinder the entire movie. And this next shot of the trailer is actually in reference to the direct opening of Resident Evil 2, where you have a truck driver come crashing in. They go ahead and basically replicate that same opening here in the movie as further proof they're not only taking further inspiration from the Resident Evil video games, but Resident Evil 2. As moments continue on in the trailer, we see other iconic locations from the video games, like the Raccoon Police Department. Now, in the video games, this virus gets a little out of control very early on, to where the police department is no longer able to assist with the situation. But even with the Raccoon Police Department not being all that useful in this movie, they do give us a look at one of the characters from the video games, Chief Brian Irons. Now, in the video games, he is usually known as a bad guy, as he was someone who was taking bribes from the Umbrella Corporation to kind of let things go whenever some shady stuff would come up involving the Umbrella Corporation. And this is the kind of stuff I mean, that they're really taking inspiration from the video game and trying to make it fit into this storyline, and is why I feel like fans should be happy they're at least attempting this, because for this movie to be allowed to get its R rating, it had to be made on a lower budget, so it's less of a risk for the studio, because R-rated movies tend to make less money. So I still want to applaud them for taking these risks. But speaking of other things from the video game, something that we did see in the previous Resident Evil franchise, and we'll see in this one, is some zombie dogs. I think these are always little annoying creatures in the video games, and to have them included in here and infected as zombies, I think is also going to be really awesome. I do want to say though, some special effects in here look really awesome, while others still look like they need to be polished in this movie. And I'm hoping that they're maybe still working on the visual effects and they won't be completely ready until the movie's finally released, which does happen sometimes. So anybody freaking out a little bit about the way the visuals look in here, remember, it was made on a lower budget, but there's still time that they could go ahead and tweak them before the actual movie's released. And after going through the police department like they do in the video games and getting all suited up and ready, they head off to the infamous mansion in the Resident Evil video games. Now, Now, this mansion isn't any ordinary mansion. It's known as the Spencer Mansion, and this was built with an underground lab so that a lot of secret experiments can be had testing different strains of viruses until zombies just start popping up. One of the zombies in particular that'll be focused from the video games into the actual movie is the character of Lisa Trevor. We get glimpses of her in the trailer. We even see her file pop up with her name at the top, and the director of this movie mentioned that he found her story very fascinating from the video games and wanted to make it a central point in this movie. And yeah, if you know the full story of Lisa Trevor, it's a very sad one. Originally, the father of Lisa Trevor was the person who helped build the Spencer Mansion, and once it was completed, the founder of the umbrella company and owner of the mansion did not want anyone knowing about the secrets this mansion had, killed the father off, then invited his wife and daughter to the mansion, held them captive, and started performing experiments on them until this sweet little girl turned into this hideous, almost immortal monster. And I believe even at one point in the trailer, we even see the mother also turning into some sort of zombie from all these testings. From the trailer just goes with all sorts of crazy, showing us different action sequences that'll be going down and some familiar zombies that we've seen from the video games. When our characters are finally in the mansion roaming around, we get a call back to the first time the video game characters encountered a zombie with this infamous slow turn that is now being replicated into the movie. It's stuff like this where I'm like, good job, man. That is an awesome thing that you bring back and try to make it fit into the movie naturally. And maybe a reference not so subtle for fans is one here of Itchy Tasty. This is a reference to a passage that you'll find in a diary book throughout the Resident Evil video games. And it's just another thing that I think Resident Evil fans will smile at when they see it on screen. And like I said, I want to admit the visual effects on this guy hanging on the roof does not look perfect, but I still applaud the effort that they put in here to try and replicate some things from the video game and bring it to life. But one of the final other big Easter eggs I want to throw in here for Resident Evil fans is it looks like when they're down in the mansion and they're looking at some home videotapes, we do get a quick glimpse of the Ashford Twins. Now I'm going to do my best to basic summarize these characters because the Resident Evil lore sometimes can get very convoluted and weird, but the Ashford Twins were actually an experiment and clones of an ancestor of the Ashford family, and in trying to clone off one of these offsprings, Alexia Ashford would eventually end up mutating and becoming one of the bigger villains in the Resident Evil franchise. I don't know if she'll be an integral part of this movie, but it definitely feels like she's an Easter egg being set up for maybe another film, as this is obviously the start of something bigger. But those are just some of the things I caught in the Resident Evil trailer. Like I said, I think this looks like a lot of fun. Yeah, it might seem to have its mishaps here and there, but I applaud them for trying to stay faithful to the video game and attempting to bring those stories into the movies finally, since the previous franchise didn't do that. But I want to know from you guys, are there any things you caught that I might have missed, or any corrections to the lore you want to give me? Sometimes I think myself as a big Resident Evil fan, but then, I meet people in the comments that are way bigger. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films, and on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.